Just what is it that you want to do? We're going to have a good time.
Welcome back to Replay Retro. I'm Matt, and as always I'll be your guide as we explore another piece of retro gaming history. Last week we looked at the Atari Jaguar and saw how despite some impressive hardware and the Atari name, a lack of decent third-party games and a number of unfulfilled promises led the system into a dead end and saw the demise of one of gaming's greatest names. However, out of all the promises Atari made Jaguar adopters, one of them was in fact kept when in 1995 a CD add-on unit was released for the ill-fated console. Much like the Mega CD before it, the Jaguar CD was designed to attach itself in a leech-like fashion to the standard Jaguar console. However, rather than use an expansion port like the Mega CD and indeed PC Engine CD, the Jaguar version simply slotted on top of the console using the system's cartridge port for communication. As a result of this, it also featured its own cartridge slot to allow owners to play standard cartridge-based Jaguar games without having to first remove the CD attachment. This cartridge slot could also be used for saving CD-based game progress via the use of the memory track cartridge, a function which set it apart from the Mega CD and other similar add-on units which could not save progress. As with its competitors, the Jaguar CD was fully capable of playing audio CDs and therefore helped the system start to live up to the multimedia boast emblazoned on the original console. It also featured virtual light machine software by Jeff Minter built in, which produced a stunning light show to complement the CD being played in the double-speed drive. To help produce this hardware, Atari went to Philips, who, alongside Sony, were instrumental in bringing this new optical format to consumers. Atari felt that the high-tech image of CD technology would help their struggling console to win over gamers who were moving swiftly towards the PlayStation and its CD-only games. But the attachment failed to help the system gain ground. Perhaps in part due to its price tag of around $150, which, when added to the cost of the Jaguar itself, soon becomes $400. Even the inclusion of 2 free games and a demo disc did nothing to help, and the initial shipment from Philips of just 20,000 units is believed to be the only shipment of the console ever produced. And it is thought that due to poor quality control, a large number of these units never even worked due to various communication errors between the console and the CD unit. As such, finding a working Jaguar CD today can be a costly experience. One thing which Atari did get right, however, was the way in which they preempted piracy issues. Realising that the CD format was far easier to replicate than cartridges, Atari knew that pirate gamers would be a threat if their system became successful. To combat this, they worked closely with Philips to develop a new format based around the existing technology. This not only made piracy more difficult, using publicly available technology, but also meant that Jaguar CDs could hold up to 790 megabytes of data compared to the standard CD-ROM format of the time. Sadly, as we already know, the unwillingness of third-party publishers to betray industry giant Nintendo or the quickly growing Sony Playstation meant that despite being a superior system technically, the Jaguar CD was left with very few games. And as we've learnt time and time again on our journey through retro, great hardware means nothing without great software. But let's take a look at the actual Jaguar CD unit now and a few of the games which were released for it. Okay, so here we are with the Jaguar CD unit itself. It's actually quite a nice little unit, really. It's a lot more compact and neat than the Mega CD was, so I'd give it points for that. On the top here, you have the cartridge pass-through slot, so that you can plug your normal game cartridges into there, so that you don't have to disconnect this from the Jaguar to play them, which is a good idea. You also have obviously the actual CD bay on top. You just press this button here to open it and then lift the flap. And there is your 2-speed Philips CD-ROM drive. Nice little drive. On the underneath you obviously have what enables it to connect to the Jaguar itself, which is this port here, which is essentially just the base of a standard Jaguar cartridge, so that you can plug it into the cartridge port. As you'd expect, you also have all your serial numbers and your manufacturing date and all that kind of stuff. And on the back is where you find the power supply socket. Just like the Mega CD, this does require its own independent power supply. So in order to play a Jaguar CD game, you obviously need somewhere to plug your TV in, somewhere to plug your Jaguar in, and somewhere to plug your Jaguar CD in. So you will need an adapter for this. Although the actual power supplies themselves aren't too fat, so I've found it's perfectly easy to fit them in next to each other. But obviously that depends on your brand of adapter. To use the system, you simply take it like this and plug it straight into the top of the Jaguar. And that's it, yeah. And then you have it, simply in. To me, that looks like it was designed to be that way. It doesn't look like it was a tacked on afterthought in the same way that the Mega CD does, when it's either grafted onto the side or stuck underneath. It just looks like it was meant to be like this. And I think that's benefited by the fact that it does have the cartridge pass-through port on it. It does make it look like a more complete system. However, some people have described this as looking like a toilet, which I can kind of understand, especially when you take a game cartridge, this is Bubsy the Bobcat here, and stick it in the back, which kind of looks like the toilet cistern. This now, yeah, it kind of does look a bit like a toilet. There's a seat up, you can do what you need to do, then obviously close the seat and maybe flush with the power button, I don't know, yeah. But anyway, it's not a toilet, it's a Jaguar CD. Let's put that to one side. The games themselves, again, come in cardboard packages, which are slightly bigger than the normal Atari Jaguar cartridge boxes. Inside them, you'll often find big instruction manuals and warranty cards, etc. But the thing you will always find is this smaller game pack box here. And a lot of the time when you find the games on eBay, they are just in this, without the actual outer box. When you open this up, find it's a nice long pack. You've got a little bit of information at the front here, so the hint lines and stuff. And that's also, if I can get it out, that's also where your controller overlay lives, if it comes with a controller overlay. Your manual is next up, and that's actually attached to the pack, although can be removed like that. So your full manual is there, and then the disc itself is in the final section. And that's just what you'd expect a disc to look like, really. And of course that goes in there like that. Close the lid, press the power button, you get a short VLM boot screen showing some lovely pretty colours instead of the normal Jaguar boot screen, and then it's time to play Hover Strike, Unconquered Lands.
Launch sequence initiated.
Okay, so here we are with Hover Strike, Unconquered Lands. I just wanted to show you this little sequence first because I think it's actually quite cool. Not something that would have been possible, of course, with the normal cartridge-based system. What a cool intro sequence. Anywho, so you pick a level from this area here, and then you get some spiel about what is actually going on in that level. Skip past that, doesn't matter. And then you are dropped onto the planet. That's quite a cool effect because you see, you know, the planet getting closer and then you slam onto it. As you can see, there's some pretty good textures and the environment is quite good. You are essentially, obviously, a hover tank of some description, completing various missions. The mission we're on here is to destroy some rocket silos. Or missile silos, whatever. You have your standard cannon and you also have homing missiles available to you. There's one of our targets. Use a homing missile on that.
can be a little bit clumsy to get your weapon on things. Because obviously we're used these days to having one analog stick, for example, for moving around and another for aiming. There is a moment's thought required when going back to this type of control. And as a result, you can obviously only be doing one of those things realistically at once, either moving your vehicle or aiming up and down, which does feel really clumsy, and you do feel like you're leaving yourself open to attack quite easily. It's by no means an excellent game, but it's very playable, and if you have got a Jaguar CD, it's one of the ones I'd recommend getting. It's definitely not one of the worst titles. It shows the potential of the system, although perhaps not really showing off what it can do. And because of that clumsiness, you do tend to get quite lost, even with the radar. Someone's shooting at me now, I don't know where they're coming from. I should point out this is on easy, which is why there isn't a vast number of enemies coming after us. The game would normally throw more enemies at you than this. Oh, is that our last missile silo? Yes, it is. Rather unexciting way to end the game, but end it we have. Right, so this is Battlemorph. This is the sequel to Cybermorph, which we looked at last week on the Jaguar, and what's changed? Well, as you can see, the graphics have stepped up enormously. This is vastly better. This is what I wanted Cybermorph to be. Controls are a lot better, and yep, you can now take your War Griffin underwater, and the underwater environment is really cool. You've got this flapping seaweed and stuff like that. There's now much more diversity to the missions. The sound, which we complained about last week, has been improved massively. There are many more sound effects available to the game, and the music score is brilliant. You also have these cool tunnel stages, where you have to shoot these buttons to open the doors as you go through.
Access code.
Which require a little bit more skillful piloting when you get into the rooms. Oops. When you get into the rooms at the end of the tunnels. Your objectives now range from finding individual things like the documents I've just found in this room, to destroying stuff, or staying alive. They're the kind of wide-reaching objectives that you get all the time nowadays. You'll also notice that the advisory woman in the corner is nowhere near as annoying as she used to be. Graphically, this game definitely shows what the Jag and the Jag CD could do.
Let's go home.
And because of that, it's a real pity it didn't succeed. I mean, this is a brilliant game. This is so playable. I actually sat down and played this for a good hour during this review. It's just a brilliant game. The graphics are so much better, and the texture mapping is brilliant. There's no clunky mountains either. They're not all sharp polygons. They look a lot smoother than they did before. Everything looks smoother, more colourful, brighter. I mean, the trees never looked that good before. There we go, and now we're transported back to our ship, where we get this Sean Connery impersonator.
All crew stand by.
Again, another really cool little video sequence.
Mission completed.
Menu sequence is vastly improved from the original Cybermorph as well.
Planet Paramount. Enter.
Choose your missions from this screen.
Welcome to the briefing room. Be careful out there.
One new feature here is your ability to select various weapons for the different bays on your ship. As you can see, there's only 2 weapons available this early on in the game, and I've got them both.
War Griffin ready for launch.
But as the game goes on, you do get more and more weapons to put in 4 weapons bays, which are selectable via the keypad on the Jaguar controller of weapons bays A, B, C, and D. The other buttons on the keypad simply do different views, really, that's about it. I wouldn't say this is a reason to spend, you know, over £100 on a Jaguar CD, but if you've already bought a Jaguar CD, you have to have this game.
Enhanced
It
scanning.
really makes it more worthwhile. This is what Cybermorph should have been all along. This is a great game, and one that I highly recommend. It's just so much better looking, and better playing. It's not just about the looks, this really plays well. Great game. Battlemorph on the Jaguar CD. Next up, of course, I wanted to show you the virtual light machine software, which is built into the console, designed of course by Jeff Minter. The music for this is provided by a band called Joy Disaster, and the song is The Light. Check them out online. I got their CD through the post free somehow, and I think they're brilliant. I'm just going to go through a few of the VLM's effects here, just to give you an idea of some of the visualizations it can pull off. If you notice, in the bottom left corner you'll see two numbers. At the minute it says 7 and 8, now 7 and 3. Basically, that's how you select the different visualizations. There are 9 banks of completely individual type of visualization. It's a bit of a tongue twister. And then within those 9 banks, there are 9 variations on that theme. So 1-1 would be bank 1, variant 1, 9-9 would be bank 9, variant 9. So there's plenty of visualizations to go with. This type of software is obviously something we take for granted these days. All our media players tend to have it built in. But remember, this was quite a new thing back then. And even by modern standards, these visualizations are cool. These are a lot better than my Windows Media Player standard visualizations or Winamp or anything like that. This was and is an impressive piece of software. It's the first time with a lot of these visualizations that I could actually sit down and just watch a visualization for a while. They're very, very cool.
So, unfortunately for Atari, the Jaguar CD can be added to the long line of failed console add-ons over the years. But, as we mentioned last week, the homebrew community is still very much active, producing a number of new titles for the Jaguar CD, as well as uncovering old demos and prototype games for the system. Shortly before the collapse of Atari, a hybrid Jaguar and Jaguar CD system was designed to reduce the cost to the consumer and hopefully elevate the system to new heights. However, the company just wasn't in a position to fully develop or launch this console, and so it never saw the light of day. Perhaps it would be fair to speculate that if this hybrid system had come out instead of the standard Jaguar, things might be very different now, as Atari might have been able to gain enough of a foothold in the market to see off the PlayStation. Of course, we'll never know for sure what might have been, and the Jaguar, and indeed the Atari name, are all but forgotten to modern gamers. Join me again next time on Replay Retro for something a little bit different. Right then, Jaguar CD commercial. Okay, see what this one is.
Just what is it that you want?
It's playing. This is just clips. This can't be the real advert. How has this got to do with anything?
We're gonna have a good time.
What a load of